Welcome ladies and gentlemen, my name is Byronic and on today's Star Guide, I will be diving into the FPS demo from PAX Australia. I'll be covering HUD, environmental, and gameplay details in depth to perhaps bring to light some things you may have missed. Now without any further delay, let's get this started. Now right off the bat, I'm going to pause this video. The entire FPS demo takes place on this space station, not to be confused with this space station. Now we've seen this object multiple times starting way back as concept art and, to the best of my knowledge, has always been referred to as the orbital station. Now, if you remember back to the Persistent Universe demo, we actually saw this station after the constellation jumped in system. Back to the demo, we can see that this orbital station is most likely not the same one seen previously because of its heavily damaged exterior. Now, as the Redeemer heads into the station, we can see that access to the hangar and other systems on a derelict must be done manually. This image here of the Redeemer coming through the force field could imply that a pre-boarding team who is responsible for opening the hangar could also temporarily bring down the shields and suck out any defenses into space. Now as we move further into the demo, we can get a first glimpse at our various HUD elements. Something to note is that everything on screen is actually self-contained within our helmet rather than plastered onto your screen like a traditional first-person shooter. As for the UI elements themselves, we can separate the HUD into three sections: movement, management, and status. Movement is pretty self-explanatory. Our left third of the screen contains a minimap that tracks both friendly and foes via a radar system. Blue dots represent friendlies, while red dots are your enemies. During the first two engagements between the Marines and the Pirates, it's made apparent that tracking your enemies on the minimap is based on sound or actions performed. If you take a close look at the radar during the zero gravity fight, you can see red blips whenever the enemy fires their gun. This is pretty exciting because this implies CIG is actively working towards stealth mechanics not only in space combat, but in FPS combat as well. As a final note on the minimap, be aware that when you aim down your iron sights, your HUD retracts and presents you with no tactical information. Moving on, let's look at the second segment of our HUD management. At the top of your screen, you'll see three different modes that you can presumably switch between: tactical, medical, and overview. As you can see here, our Marine is set in tactical mode. Now throughout this entire demo, there was no examples of what your HUD would display when selecting medical or overview. However, it's quite possible that when switching to the medical tab, your presented visual elements such as the gun loadout would change in preference for tracking injured friendlies or available medical supplies. Moving on, we have the final section of our HUD, which I'm calling the status indicators. These HUD elements help track current armaments, oxygen levels, and what I believe to be a health status signature. At the top right, we have our armaments, which displays the currently selected weapon, fire modes, and ammo status. The left number on the ammo status is the number of bullets left in the clip, and the right indicator is the number of magazines available. This means that if you have 10 bullets left and decide to reload, you will most likely lose those bullets as you are replacing the whole magazine. At the bottom of the armaments display, we have what appears to be 5 toggle options. These could be either saved weapon loadouts or utility devices attached to the 1 through 5 buttons. I'm leaning towards utility devices because we saw multiple cases of unique equipment being used. At the very beginning of the video, the pirate is called to throw down an ADS, which acts as a self-contained mobile shield. You can see here that after deployed, it creates a waist-high shield that could be used for improvised cover. Now at about 6 minutes in, the Marine is confronted with another utility device called a hologram. Very similar to Killzone, Halo, and other games, you can use this hologram to distract your enemies or notify your friends when enemies are near. Shortly after the hologram is used, the player walks directly into an EMP grenade. This grenade temporarily shuts down your HUD and blocks visual contact for a short period. This isn't the only grenade used in the video, however. Seen here, a fragmentation grenade is employed. Now before we move on, I'd like to quickly address a common complaint seen here on the forums and community sites because it's related to armaments. Many people have been clamoring for non-kinetic weapons, claiming that the entire video excludes these and were thus disappointed. Well, let's go ahead and take a look. In the very first engagement, you can see what can only be described as a purple shotgun. Firing in large spreads, these purple rounds are either coming from a non-kinetic weapon or are unique round types that are not your traditional bullet. Later in the zero gravity fight, we can see one of the soldiers using a gun which fires red bullets, which looks something and sounds unlike that of a kinetic weapon. Based on what I've seen, concerns over weapon type diversity is unfounded. We already know of multiple weapons being included, such as radiation guns, pneumatic air rifles, and so forth. From the FPS demo, we can already see some of this diversity in the form of unique weapon types and/or ammo types. Moving to the bottom of the screen, we have the health status, oxygen level, and fuel indicator. The oxygen level is pretty self-explanatory. Above that, however, we have the health status indicator. Now originally, I thought that this was a noise tracker, but it became apparent that this was not the case, as during events such as gunfire or grenade explosions, this wavelength remained static. During the zero gravity encounter, we can actually see the health status bar change color and frequency whenever the player is taking damage. You can see here that the Marine has taken damage in the form of blood splatter. On top of that, his health status indicator is now red and erratic. I've gone ahead and broken down the two different health status conditions. The first one is light blue and light orange and indicates nominal health. Keep in mind that the helmet you have on changes the color of your HUD element. As a pirate, having an orange status could still mean that you are healthy. The second health indicator is dark red. This means that you have taken considerable damage and you should probably visit a doctor, like right now. Moving on, the right side of the HUD element, we can see a fuel indicator which I believe is in relation to suit-based fuel used while in EVA or zero-G environments. The THR indicator is currently unknown to me, though it is possible it stands for thermal. The last element of this demo I'd like to analyze is the zero gravity mechanics. Prior to the second fight, one of the pirates actually shuts down the gravity system by simply pulling a lever. After a short period of time and warning alerts, the artificial gravity of the entire orbital station is shut down. Now, the first thing I'd like to look at is zero-G movement. From what we've seen, you can either push yourself off of a solid surface or employ air jets in your suit for omnidirectional movement. The physics already in place are quite robust for such an early state of the game. You can see in multiple instances where dead players are gliding based on the direction they were moving when they were killed. Not only that, but axial rotation remains as seen by this starfish. Players are not the only ones affected by zero gravity environments. As seen here, cargo containers that are not tied down will begin floating and moving based on player interactions. This adds a unique gameplay element of smart players using floating objects for cover in similar situations. You know, I won't lie, I did not think that the FPS side of Star Citizen was going to be anything more than a tertiary afterthought. However, after seeing this FPS demo, I was not only shocked, but surprised at this level of depth Cloud Imperium Games is going for. I'm sure like many of you, after you read Ilphonic's AMA on Reddit, you thought it was all too good to be true and they were simply overpromising on something they could not possibly deliver. Well, ladies and gentlemen, after seeing this demo, I have become a believer. I didn't know when I first pledged for Star Citizen I was getting a fully flushed first-person experience, but this pretty much confirms just that. Anyways, thank you everyone for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Star Guides. If you're interested in more Star Citizen content, hit that subscribe and like button. As a side note, I have released the entire live stream broken up into segments I deem noteworthy, thus allowing you to focus on concentrated bits of information. However, if you would like to see the full live stream, I published a recording for folks not interested in waiting for the official release. Again, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.